Welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. It's the start of Week 2 in the NFL, and we're here to give you your betting insight on the action happening on Thursday night. Commanders, Packers, Amazon, let's go. If you haven't joined the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast before, you can follow us on X at Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2. And also on Instagram at Overrated Experience. You're joining a podcast, if you haven't heard this before, that is a square point of view from a betting perspective. We mainly focus on football for the most part, but we do go off into all sorts of sports, NHL, soccer, basketball, baseball, whatever gets us paid. So welcome to the Overrated Experience. Last week, if you missed it, we had a few podcasts that led you up to Week 1. I hope you had a great Week 1. Tell me how it was. Tell me what your record was. I can tell you right now, and I'll be very transparent and very embarrassed about the props. Were an absolute disgrace. The props were an absolute disaster and almost worth a cancellation of this podcast off into the sunset, never seen again. But then I thought to myself, hell, it's Week 1. We all have our stories of a rough week. And my rough week just happened to be in the first week of the NFL season. I'll get to a record in a second. To all you Survivor Pool players out there, a.k.a. suicide pools, pretty safe weekend compared to Week 1 of the NFL season last year. No real upsets. I know I took the Cincinnati Bengals, and I took the Bengals in the bigger pool I'm in, and the way they squeak through, I'm lucky to go on to Week 2. Absolute disgusting, deplorable way that the Cincinnati Bengals handled that game. Should have lost. Missed extra points and field goals and a couple interceptions that were kind of tip balls. Absolute. Like I owe somebody something up there. Upstairs, help me out some way, somehow, because I should have been eliminated in Week 1, but I'm not, and I'm not going to apologize for it. So I hope you guys had an opportunity maybe to take a game that you didn't have to sweat it. Maybe you took the Colts to spank the Dolphins. Maybe you took the Bills and Ravens, which you'd be stupid if you went to Week 1 and chose one of those teams. Bills went up winning by a point, made your comeback. Vikings show some moxie. Looked like a tale of two games there. J.J. McCarthy looked horrible in the first half. Caleb Williams looked pretty good in the first half with Ben Johnson, new head coach of the Bears. And then things flipped. Mostly late third quarter, fourth quarter. J.J. McCarthy started to look like an NFL quarterback. Caleb Williams looked like what Caleb Williams is. And as a Bears fan, man, it sucks. Like you can't think of a more hardcore NFL city than the city of Chicago. The memories of Jim McMahon, the fridge, in 1985, winning a Super Bowl, and from there, we've had you had a trip to the Super Bowl, but a lot of disappointment from that point on. And you go into last year, you make the right pick. You would have been crazy not to take Caleb Williams, even though maybe there was a few people out there that said Jayden Daniels was your guy. I'd be hard-pressed to think that they wouldn't take Caleb Williams. And he's still in the developmental stage, while the second overall pick from last year, Jayden Daniels, is on that track to take a team potentially to the Super Bowl or that next level. And you don't really hear the words development when it comes to Jayden Daniels. You hear explosive, game changer, franchise quarterback. Those questions that Caleb Williams needs to answer seem like they're far in the rearview mirror for Jayden Daniels. And we'll get to Jayden Daniels. He's going to be a part of this podcast aplenty. And this podcast is going to focus on the Thursday nighter only. We're going to get to another podcast, possibly two, to cover both picks going into Sunday and or separate podcast or a combo like we did last week to try take another chance. Give me another chance, please. Cut me a break. Pretend Week 1 didn't happen. That we're going to talk about props. And just to tell you how bad it went, my overall props, I gave out 22 props last week, 8 of which cashed in, 36%, absolutely junk. I did a little better on the pick, 62.5%, and that was, 23 for 26? No, that's not it. Either way, sorry. Math's off, but I got the percentage, 63 some odd percent for the picks. Let's do better. Okay, let's do better. And let me know what sports book you're using out there. Now, I've been predominantly using FanDuel for this week. That just happened to be the book I have dollars invested in. Shout out if you found any good promotions on some of the sites. It's kind of dried up, if you've noticed. Not like it was back in the day, right? These books are now a little sneaky on the way they're calculating odds. They're pushing you to same game parlays. Really not the same world that you bettors know from previous years. You know, the benefits of these new sports book and the legalization is easy access to deposit. You're not running down to a Western Union to send a money order off overseas to Bet365 to deposit into your account. That's a benefit. But the odds are such dog shit now that you're hard pressed to really come up with a good amount of games that you feel comfortable with the spreads, the odds, and the trust that they feel you're not tinkering with the betting action as a sports bettor. So we're going to make this short. We're going to make it sweet. And we're going to talk Commanders heading into Wisconsin, into Lambeau to take on the Green Bay Packers. The NFL is such a week-to-week, like, how do you describe it? Decisions are made on a week, reputations are made week after week. The narrative changes week after week, but God forbid, 7 days, a 7-day window of a narrative that just will not go away. So right now, the Chiefs are getting knocked down. They're after that loss in Brazil, from the Chargers. The Chiefs pretty much are getting written off. You hear the stories. Are they done? I don't think so. They've lost before to open a season, and they've wound up hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. The Lions are really in the shitter, right? They did not look good in Lambeau on the road against the Packers. Could not put up any offense. Jared Goff looked like he was under pressure constantly. Micah Parsons was all over, he was all over the field for the limited time he was in the game, usually in pass rush, usually third down scenarios he was in the game, but he was a difference maker. So the Packers stock is rocketing. Every power ranking you have heard has put the Green Bay Packers as number one. Will that last? I don't know. The jury to me is still out on Jordan Love. He's got peaks, and he also has times where he's very bland, really, struggles in his short period of time as the Packers starting quarterback. So let's see how it goes this week when they take on the Commanders in a short turnaround week. And then what other narratives? Cowboys, not really going anywhere. Giants, the G-men. Oh my, Russell Wilson there's already talk of Russell Wilson being benched, right? After week one, they couldn't really move the ball against Washington. Here's a news flash. What did you expect from Russell Wilson? He's not Seattle prime Russell Wilson any further. So I don't know what Brian Daboll was selling as head coach of the New York Giants to convince the organization to give me another chance and let me have Russ Wilson. He will carry us out of the flames and the ashes and bring us back to playoff contention. Well, it didn't look like that in week one, and Brian Daboll is on the hot seat for NFL coaches. And the Miami Dolphins, absolutely horrible. And I think the narrative is accurate there. I talked about this at the start of the year that this stock is going down. Mike McDaniels, Rex Ryan ripping Mike McDaniels, calling him a nerd and just players don't respect him. So that shine is off and everybody is piling on big time. Game of the year, the Bills, Ravens, I think the narratives are the same regardless of the outcome of that game. But what other narratives in whatever game? I Caleb Williams, like we just talked about his game on Monday night. I mean, people are writing him off already. I don't know if we're there yet. He had a solid first half. He looked pretty good. He's got a rocket of an arm, but he's a little slow to make decisions. And that half-second delay really makes a difference on, incompletions to potential touchdowns. So, they got to run with him, see what they have. But he's going to get hard-pressed, and the pressure's on in Chicago. And Ben Johnson, that guy looks frustrated. Like you could see on the sideline, he's talking under his breath. I think he's going to learn that the camera is focused on him because you can't look at it as an offensive coordinator. You got to look at it as a head coach where you're trying to cultivate a franchise quarterback. So those are some of the narratives that are going around the NFL in week 1, and who knows what it's going to do in week 2. Either they're going to turn around completely or it's just going to be more proof to these narratives. But the narratives going into this Thursday nighter is that the Packers are the better team, that the Packers are going to win this game despite, the Commanders possibly making a game of it, keeping it close. The Commanders are 3.5-point dogs on FanDuel, -115. And again, I can't stress enough, and I'm gonna talk about this on every podcast. Please keep your eye on multiple books. You might get a half point here. Your over-under, which currently is 48.5, might be 47.5 or 48 at another book, or maybe higher. And you don't want to get stuck with those lines. You want to take the best line possible. I am not associated with BetStamp at all. It's an app. And I only bring this up because I do use it to compare lines in my local area. So I can kind of see all the different sports books, a lot of big sports books, a lot of medium-sized sports books, and a lot of sports books I never heard of. So you check them out. Keep an eye on those other, like services. I used Bet Online along with FanDuel this weekend. It's okay. I mean, there was nothing gravitating me to Bet Online in any way to say I got to leave FanDuel or make it a regular book that I'm going to use. There was an offer. I took it, and I'm not racing back to dump more money in there, but that's not to say it was bad, not to say it was good. It just didn't stand out. So we're going to look at the lines based on FanDuel, and then the props for this game are going to be a mixture of FanDuel and DK, DraftKings. And I'm going to take a different approach to this game. I'm going to look at the Washington Commanders as a team that is going to come in here and give the Packers a run, if not outright win this game. The Commanders are on a roll since last year, despite getting blown out in the NFC Championship. They got the job done last week. Jayden Daniels is the best player on the field. I don't care if we're talking Micah Parsons. If you got the best quarterback on the field, one of the best up-and-coming quarterbacks in the NFL, that gives you a definite leg up. And a lot of my bets going to be based on Jayden Daniels having a spectacular night. So we're going to kick it off when it comes to the spread. 3.5, I mentioned that the Commanders are underdogs. I will take that at -115, take Washington to keep it close, but I would suggest to even look at the money line. I'm not going to talk about it here, but it's worth a thought or two. And some notes on this game. I maybe should have started off with that. The Packers have two starting offensive linemen that are iffy, may or may not play. Zach Tom and Aaron Banks are potentially not playing, so that offensive line might be a little depleted when it comes to the Packers. Not good news for a solid Commanders defense. And then on Washington's side, Jayden Daniels did show up in the injury report. And, that kind of, threw me back a little bit. What the hell, Jayden Daniels? Has wrist issues. But listen to Mike Florio's podcast, Pro Football Talk. He did remind that the NFL is obligated, each team is obligated that, some guy a player jumping into the trainer's room to have treatment has to be reported or risking fine to the NFL. and doesn't necessarily mean that he has a devastating wrist injury. He's a full participant in practice on Tuesday. So I feel confident that there's nothing really to worry about there. And so Austin Eckler also banged up. Don't know if he's going to play. Noah Brown also questionable. Both guys questionable. So just a couple injuries. I believe there's an issue with Washington's punter, Tress Way. Don't know what impact that will have, but here we go. So Washington covers the 3.5, as I mentioned. 48.5 is a big number for the over-under, but I think, I just feel like I'm an over guy. I'm overrated. Experience is because I tend to focus on the entertainment aspect, and that is betting the over, which is absolutely stupid. What is the right play here? What is going to pay out? Is it going to be over? Is it going to be under? What is the smart, rational play here? Well, I'm going to look at it as this is going to be a little bit of a shootout. Jayden Daniels is not Jared Goff. I enjoy Jared Goff. Jared Goff is a great quarterback. However, he has lack of mobility, and I think Jayden Daniels' mobility is going to play a difference here. Both evading tackles, both keeping plays alive where receivers are able to get open, and or using his legs to break off big runs. So I'm going to take the over 48.5. Mark it down, guys. Mark it down. Put it on Twitter. Call me out if you want to. That's your call. So we got Commanders cover, over in the game 48.5. And when we look at the props here, I did mention that Jayden Daniels is going to be the focal point of these props that I'm going to provide here today. I believe he's going to have a standout game and be the best player on the field. So on FanDuel, Jayden Daniels passing yards, 226.5, minus 114. I got to believe he's going to be in the least to 230 aspect here. And I know that's a tough Green Bay D, but Jayden Daniels gets the job done. He goes to the air. Jayden Daniels, here's a theme. Guess what? Jayden Daniels pass and rush over 275.5. He had 60 yards rushing against the Giants last game. So I got to believe it's going to be a big part of his repertoire. Remember, a quarterback like Jayden Daniels is not just running on broken down pass plays. He has designed runs. And when if he's got room, he's going to put up a huge amount of yards that is going to pay us off by the end of the night. Most pass yards, so comparing him and Jordan Love, I like Jayden Daniels to put the ball in the air a little bit more. I think Josh Jacobs for the Packers is going to be the focal point of the Packer offense. So I think that the Commanders will put the ball in the air, and I like that at minus 113, that he'll have more passing yards than Love. So 3 straight prop plays of Jayden Daniels. Gotta say I love it. I'm going to stick with the best players instead of 55 other players that I think are going to squeak over their prop. Let's go with the superstar. And then we got Terry McLaurin, receiver for the Washington Commanders. Last week, only a few targets. Really wasn't a focal point in the offense. And I gotta believe, as the number one guy and the guy who got paid in return to the Commanders lineup, is going to be a focal point for Jayden Daniels, because he knows that connection has to be going for the Commanders to go places. So look for an actual effort for Jayden Daniels and the Commander offense to find Terry McLaurin. I like the over 55.5, and I also like Terry McLaurin over 21.5 as the longest reception. That's minus 122. So I like that combination happening on Thursday. And, a little mention to Jacoby Crockett Merritt, running back for the Washington Commanders. I think he'll hit over 37.5 yards rushing, minus 114. Like I said, Austin Eckler looks like he's a little banged up. So more and more of the rock is going to go with Jacoby. That's what I got there. And then on DK, I'm going to look at some other props that are a little unique. Now, Micah Parsons has, a pretty good bet for a sack, over 0.25. That means he at least has to have one sack, or credited for a half a sack, is minus 113. He's going to be dedicated at least in a short turnaround, where he was already doing this on last Sunday, in obvious passing situations. So his sole focus is to rush the quarterback. I feel good about that one. Also, Any team to hit 30 points, minus 110. I do think this game's going over. I wouldn't be surprised that one of these teams hits 30. I mean, I'm banking on the Commanders to put up points, but you tell me this won't be a 30-23 game or something like that on a Thursday night or short turnaround week. I think there's good value there. 2-point attempt. Like, it's plus 125. Not a success. A 2-point conversion success. This is a 2-point attempt. 2-point conversion attempt. How many games on Sunday went for 2 points? The Bills, Ravens. I should have looked back at how many games, but I feel very confident that teams are going for 2 when there's a penalty. Teams are going for 2 late in the second half. They're not waiting necessarily to get within 1 score. Many teams have adopted the philosophy down 2, so they're down 15, and they score that touchdown. They're going for the 2 points right away. So that's something to keep an eye on. I think that is a bet that is not being assessed fairly. So I think the value is there, that you'll get that more than you won't. Especially with a guy like Jayden Daniels, or you got your Jalen Hurts with the tush push, those quarterbacks that can use their legs. The Monday Nighter, J.J. McCarthy, multiple times for the 2-point conversion. One successful to Adam Thielen, one not so successful. I can't remember who he was throwing it to earlier. So I like that, plus 125, a 2-point conversion attempt. Have you heard of this bet? You probably have, but it's a Square Box podcast. Maybe you haven't. Who knows? It's called an octopus. Will there be an octopus? And what that means, and this is plus 1,400, by the way, will the touchdown score also be the score of a 2-point conversion that immediately follows that touchdown? So the 8 points. Will they score 8 points and it's not like you get a touchdown and later in the game that same, let's say, running back score or quarterback scores that 2 points. So if Jalen Hurts runs it in and he runs it in again for the 2-point conversion, that's an octopus and you get paid out at plus 1,400. Interesting. Maybe it's worth putting $10 just for fun, but it could happen. It could happen. And then for you same game parlay folks out there, and there's a lot of you who love the same game parlay, and guess what? The sportsbook love you too. They love me too because I do it too. Have you noticed? All the sportsbooks are incentivizing you to go down that path because the odds are extremely low that they're going to get hurt and you're going to lose your money. They feel very, very comfortable that, yes, you may get that one payout, but there's a whole bunch of other suckers that are dropping dimes and they're cashing in. So remember that. It is in favor of the sportsbook for you to continuously bet same game parlays. Regardless of the sport, it doesn't matter. In this game, so if we're doing a same game parlay, I got 3 bets for you. And again, the theme is going to be Washington and points being scored. So I like the alternative over, 39.5 over. Jayden Daniels alternate passing yards, 200 or more. And Washington alternate spread, moving their spread from plus 3.5 to plus 10.5. $100 would pay out profit of $109. So I'll try to get you a Thursday night same game parlay every week and try to make it a plus to make it worth your while. So that being said, it's a short, it's a quick, it's a Thursday night preview here on the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. Join us again on X, Overrated EXPER2, and on Instagram at Overrated Experience. And watch out and subscribe so you can see our next podcast and next podcast after that, and after that the other one. And especially you want to get ready for week 2, props and picks. It's going to be here. So stay tuned. The Overrated Experience is over and out. Good luck, everybody.